Hello, everyone. I'm the Ever Prince, and welcome to this strange change to the layout of my channel. Normally, I do the Homebrew Heresy and the controversial defense of really shitty combat patrols, but with the release of Space Marine 2 and the sudden autism taking over, I decided to go back to work on an old project I'd been working on for about a year back now. I've been working on this, originally beginning as a D&D kind of generator thing. It eventually grew into this well, as my co-host of this episode, Dungle, will say, there's quite a bit of pages to this thing.
There is most certainly a lot of content.
Yes, I regret nothing. So unlike normal, where my videos are kind of scripted, well, not kind of, they're very, very scripted. This one's gonna be very off the cuff, so expect a lot of ums and awkward pauses from my end, but I'll make sure to fix that on the editing end if I can. So, yes. Dungle, say hello to my audience of people.
Greetings, the Ever Prince's audience of people.
Yes, my amazing 300 subscribers at the moment. Hopefully I get more.
That is most certainly more than some.
Yes. One might say
I would not look down upon that number.
No, I mean, if you're Leonidas, you wouldn't.
Yeah, well, 300 and then maybe 9,000 others, but don't think about
it. All right, so yes, I've mentioned this to Dungle. We've been trying to set this up for probably 2 weeks now. We have awful scheduling on both of our ends, mostly mine. So yes, this is what I will be. I'm probably gonna give it like a really cool name, like, I don't know, like chapter creation or chapter challenge, something, because I like the alliteration of 2 letters of the same, because I'm weird like that. So yes, there are 60 pages worth of random rolls for creating a Space Marine chapter, and I covered as much as I could. I have gotten recommendations for things I should add. Right now, this is the 0.5 version, so Dunga, what you're looking at is still the prototype, but that's why I summoned you to join me today in my lovely catacombs under the Imperial Palace, where we are going to be rolling through this and making a chapter, or at the very least making you a chapter using my random rolls. And yes, because I know how familiar you are with The Witcher and Dungeons and Dragons in particular, I felt that you would be the perfect person to, give this a training run, if you would.
Yeah, just TTRPGs in general, if that's what you're trying to imply.
We have fun in D&D. We have fun in D&D.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Minor war crimes.
No Geneva Convention. What are you on about?
Dungle, you have opened the document, I'm assuming?
That is correct. I am on the background generator, designing your Space Marine chapter, and it is currently the Primogenitor section, the very first one.
Yes. So, when it came to designing Space Marine chapters, I find it important for a person to know the chapter's primogenitor, so what chapter or legion they're a successor of, how old the chapter is, and where they are in the galaxy. So, initially, that's what we're going to go through, and if we can get to the narrative section, the narrative event section, that'd be great. But for the most part, we're just going to go with primogenitor, age of the chapter, and ideally location. So, Dungle, do you have a D10 available?
I most certainly do.
Good. I should also ask, do you have any papers, something to keep notes of or track of?
I have a notepad open.
Excellent. Look at this. Everyone give an applause. This guy is amazing.
Don't thank me yet.
So, let me know your result. And for anyone watching at home...
Uh-oh. Oh, of course it's an Ultramarines chapter.
Ooh, okay. Well, actually, I think that's actually pretty cool, because this is something that was actually brought up to my attention as well. Someone mentioned to me, a friend of mine mentioned that when we're doing a successor of one of the Prime Legions, it should be important for every chapter to have some relation. Like, for those who don't know, the Salamanders actually reject or, at the very least, don't openly acknowledge the successors, whereas the Raven Guard are very similar. And the Ultramarines have very close relationships with their successor chapters.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about 70% of all successor chapters are Ultramarines. So
I think that would be important, because not only does that tell us well, one, that this chapter was good at filing their taxes, but that whatever chapter Dungle is creating should have, in some way, shape, or form, an opinion on the Ultramarines chapter. Next up, we have the chapter history generator. So this is basically to figure out what kind of founding the chapter was made from. So
I currently have a unknown founding.
Right. So you are an unknown founding Ultramarine successor. Now, normally I would have you roll to determine like more specificity, but because you are unknown, just blanket. You have no idea what your chapter's
Understood.
purpose. Yes. Now you need your chapter's purpose. So there is a D4. So let me know what your options are here.
You're fucking kidding me. Where are you? There we go. Standing force, number 3.
Standing force. All right. So if that's the case, you need to roll another D4. You got D3, so standing force. So your chapter was created to basically act as a defense force. Feel free to roll 1d4 for me to figure out why your chapter, what was the exact justification for creating a standing force of Space Marines.
Oh boy, it was foretold.
It was foretold! The Imperium's ability to read and foresee the schemes of fate is not perfect. And sometimes they might foresee impending doom many centuries or millennia before it occurs.
Wow, this is already sounding like a Mary Sue chapter. I love it.
Yes. Oh, I should also add, I have a concept called narratives or events. So think about these like a mini game that we can play with your chapter later on. And
fantastic.
Yes, and depending on your origin, which you have standing force, your chapter gains one additional defensive event against any faction. So when we're rolling to determine how many narratives or events your chapter has, you will add one additional defense event. So because your chapter is unknown founding, you have 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, that would be 12th to 20th founding.
All right, so the purpose of this is that you're somewhere in between the 12th to 20th founding, roughly. And so if you'll notice at the very bottom of it, it says roll 1d4 plus 1 events. So what this would be is imagine, like I said, imagine the events like narratives, or if you were to say go on the Lexicanum or the wiki, these would be like individual sections in the wiki, like different things that occurred in chapter's history. So roll a d4.
Total. I rolled a 1 plus 1 is 2.
Okay, so you have 2 events. Technically you would have 3 with the defensive event, but you have 3 major events in your chapter's history.
Oh, that's hilarious. This is great.
It's okay. And now we're at the combat specialization. So every chapter has different, things they're great at. So for the first one, we're going to roll a d6 to determine what scale of combat your chapter is specialized in. So is your chapter good at Minoris scale events, Majoris, or Absolutis? And these are different scales. So Minoris would be continent level, Major is like planetary, and Absolutis is solar system spanning.
Okay, well there we go. Absolutis.
Ooh, you guys are good at like solar system spanning conflicts.
I suppose so.
All right, so when we're doing the events, when we get to the events section, one of the options we have to roll for when determining the events is the scale of the event. So when we're doing those events, because it's like a mini game, think of these like proficiencies in D&D. So your chapter would be proficient in Absolutist scale conflict. So when we roll those, you would add a +1 to the result.
Okay.
Yes. Now we need to determine what your primary method of warfare you're good at. So are you better in skirmish combat, where you're basically 2 aggressors? Are you better at defense, where you're the defender and there's an attacker? Or are you better at being the aggressor going to attack someone else?
Okay, so I'm rolling a d6.
Yes.
All right, 6 aggressor.
Ooh, all right. Now roll another d6 to determine what type of aggressor combat you're good at. Are you the aggressor? Are you scorched earth tactics, raids, sabotage, take and hold, or bring it down, or crusade combat?
Sabotage.
Here's an example that I gave. So, for example, a chapter that specializes in absolute scale events, and like let's say their primary method was defense and their preferred tactic was recover supplies, the chapter could be one that are masters of mass exfiltration. So, they're good at making an entire the elite leader cast of a planet vanish in order to escape a problem. So your case would be your chapter is really good at fighting across the solar system and sabotaging enemy positions. So you can imagine like these like coordinated like, oh, take out this planet, this planet, this planet simultaneously through sabotage and like yeah.
Like incredibly good at maybe crippling the leaders of Norhua or something.
Yeah, exactly. So now we gotta determine your chapter's starting position. So you gotta roll a d12 to determine whether you're in the Segmentum Pacificus, Obscurus, Tempestus, or Segmentum Ultima.
Alrighty. You ready for more dead air? There we go, I found one. Alright, Segmentum Pacificus.
Ooh, the Segmentum Pacificus. Ooh, not bad. Alright, so the Segmentum Pacificus is the smallest one and arguably the safest one. So, like, have fun in the safe area, I guess. Alright. So now, for segmentums, I have segmentums divide up into, similar to, like, 3 layers. So you have the inner layer, which is the one closest to the to Terra. You have the middle layer, which is, you know, the middle section of the segmentum, and then you have the outer layer, which is obviously the furthest from Terra. So roll a d4 to determine which one of those layers your chapter is stationed in.
Inner, meaning I'm near Terra.
You are very close to Terra. All right. Now we got to determine your chapter's subsector. So a subsector is basically a smaller portion of that area. So you're positioned somewhere within the inner segment of Pacificus, and you're a subsector in there. So because you are part of the inner sector, to determine the number of systems in your subsector, it is a D10 plus 2.
5.
And now we got a roll for your system. So this is your home system where your chapter is effectively starting. Doesn't mean your chapter is like stationed there because they can be crusade fleets. But for the purpose of where you're starting, your chapter is starting in this system. So roll 1d3 to determine how many suns are in your solar system.
5, which would be rounding down or rounding up?
Rounding up.
Alright, so that means 3 suns.
You have 3 suns, and roll 1d4 for each sun to determine the age of it.
You said d4?
Yes, d4.
Fantastic. Ooh, newborn blue star.
Ooh, very nice.
Alright, and I do this for all of them?
Yes.
Oh, black sun.
A black and blue sun? That's fucking cool.
Holy shit, and then another newborn star. Okay.
Ooh, you have 2 blues and 1 black. That's trippy. That is trippy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yes.
A lot of radiation.
A lot of radiation. Alright, so now I want you to roll a d10 to determine whether or not your chapter has a homeworld or if it's fleet-based. If it's fleet-based, we can skip the homeworld generator and effectively move to the events. But if you have a homeworld, we can actually go onto the planet generator, which is the whole section I have laid out and what actually spawned this whole random generator.
Yep, I do have a planet. On 8.
Ooh, you got an 8. All right, your planet has your chapter has a planet. Sorry. All right, now I want you to roll a d10 to determine how your chapter views your homeworld. So they view it as a waste of resources, it has some value, or an empire in miniature.
Empire in miniature, just like Dad would have wanted.
Ooh, that is fucking cool. I love this. I actually kind of like the idea of a chapter that, like, I don't know. What kind of vibes are you getting so far from your chapter?
Well, I mean, they're all sappers, but they're imperialists, so it seems almost like they're, I guess they're really good at, intercepting enemies.
Yes. I'm getting kind of like, I don't want to say merciful, but I'm getting like, you know, I'm getting something there because like they use sabotage and they have an empire in miniature. All right. So would your chapter, so this is basically just, does your chapter recruit from their homeworld? When we get to the homeworld generator, you can decide if your chapter would recruit from that planet or if they're just stationed there. If your chapter does recruit from the homeworld, my best thing to suggest is look at what the homeworld offers. So when we get to the generator, obviously, if your planet is say feral, consider more feral aspects for your chapter. Whereas if your planet was, I don't know, say a mining world, well, maybe your chapter has very like, I don't want to say blue collar work ethic, but they have a bit more of an industrious feel to them kind of thing. Consider how yeah.
They know how to work the earth.
Yes, exactly. So we will get to that. But again, if your chapter doesn't recruit from your home world, they can still recruit from any world within any of your within any system in your subsector. So consider those worlds when you're actually designing this. But otherwise, yes.
So now we're on to the systems planets.
Yes, we're on to the systems / planet sections. So we rolled the sun. Now let's roll to determine. We rolled the suns. Let's roll to determine how many planets are in your system. So 3d4 plus 1. And those are the planets in your system.
Okay.
And I think it's
more jitter.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know how many planets are in your system because those can act as, like, for example, there are some chapters who have like fortifications on every single planet in their system, or they can have like different relationships with different planets in their system. So I think it's always good to keep in mind, like, even just something as simple as that.
7 planets.
You have 7 planets. All right, now roll me 1d4 minus 1, and that's how many planets are in your system's habitable zone.
3.
You have 3 planets in your habitable zone. Holy shit. All right, you know what? Your chapter has no reason to not have below, like, your chapter should always be at full strength. Fuck you.
I was about to say, yeah, I rolled max on that. I mean, Empire in miniature. I mean, just blue stars. What is Cancer if not evolution? So there we go.
Dad would be fucking proud. All right, so that's your planet. Well, you know what? If you want to make 3 planets, we can. But for this one right now, we'll just do 1. We'll just do 1. So roll me a d6 to determine what kind of planet you have. So what is the main geography your planet has?
5 is a moon.
Ooh, you have a moon. All right, now roll me a d4 to determine a unique feature about your moon.
Escape velocity.
Okay, so the moon is very far from the planet that it orbits, and it's probably pretty close to leaving the system, leaving the planet's gravitational pull. It doesn't mean that it has, but that could also be something your chapter is aware of. Like, your chapter is aware that, could even be since your chapter's been stationed there, that it's been steadily monitoring its gradual escape velocity effectively.
Yeah, I mean, of the 12th to 20th, I mean, that's a couple thousand years current timeline.
Yeah. All right.
That's what, around War of the Beasts kind of time, or?
This would be it. Your chapter would have been formed around the War of the Beast. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your chapter would have been formed around the War of the Beast, either before or after. No. 12th is. No, the War of the Beast was the 4th founding. I think the 12th. I think the 12th founding to 20th founding was. That was the forging area. That's when the Imperium was at its peak. That's when the Imperium was really strong. Yeah, that's when they were at their. They were as strong as they were. No, they were almost as strong as they were during the Great Crusade, but they weren't as strong as they were then. But still pretty powerful. And because we're a moon, when we're determining the subcategory of our planet, we have to adjust the fact that mining worlds become 51% to 70%, hive worlds become 71% to 90%, and we can't have agri worlds on moons. Alright, now we gotta roll for your planet size, or in this case, your moon. So when we're rolling for the moon, we're gonna use Earth's moon, relatively speaking.
Okay. So, larger than the moon of ours.
It is larger than that is a big moon. Terra's moon is big, but if the moon your chapter has is bigger than Earth's moon, that is ridiculous.
I know, this is really interesting.
This is. I mean, I can imagine the planet it's on being insane. All right, so you said you had 7, right? You had 7 systems in your subsector, right? Or was it 5?
7 planets. 7 planets in system, and 3 are in the habitable zone.
Okay, and then how many are in your subsector? There was 5, right? In your subsector, I believe?
Yeah, 5 systems. 5 systems.
Okay. Roll me a d4, and that will determine the influence of the Imperial cult on your world. So how religious are the people your planet recruits from? If they're, if they're super religious, there's a good chance your chapter might worship the emperor. If they're not at all religious, you can imagine your chapter might actually have issues with like the actual imperial establishment because of that. So we're going to roll a d4, and then we're going to add how many systems are in your subsector. So in this case, you're going to roll 1d4 plus 5.
Yep, so that is 3, so 3 plus 5 is 8. So it is under ecclesiastical influence.
Yeah, so the ecclesiarchy has a presence, and it's no different than most imperial planets. So like, yeah, the population is religious, but not to the point of absolute devotion, not to the point of the leaders and rulers being part of the church. All right, so now we're at the planet society. So this one's going to be a D100. You got a D100 on you?
I have 2 D10s, which would suffice.
Perfect. So depending on the position of your planet, like if it's in the, say, inner layer, outer layer, middle layer, that can also affect the type of resources that planet might have. So in the case of planets in the inner layer, hive worlds become 81% to 95% because there's way more hive worlds closer to Terra than there would be further from Terra. Forge worlds would become 98% or 96% to 99%, and fortress worlds, which are the most militaristic, are just 100%.
How about 37?
37. So let me see.
Civilized world?
That's what it looks like. Yeah, civilized world.
And this is for the home planet.
Yes. So you have a civilized moon. So you have like a moon base effect. You have like an arcology on the moon. So a civilized world would be anything remotely close to like Earth. Like think about like modern day Earth as an example for a civilized world. All right. Yeah. So now we need secondary planet classification. So let's find. So roll a d20 for me.
Just have a whole bag of dice for this, everyone. Just literally everything you can bring.
Yes, bring everything for this.
All right, 11 Imperial Training Ground.
Ooh, that is cool. So this planet was used to train Imperial Guard soldiers. Now roll a d4 to determine what those soldiers are training for on this world.
Righty, 1 second.
Or I shouldn't say world, I should say moon, rather.
Okay, d4. Shock and awe.
That is cool. So this moon, for whatever reason, has been chosen to train Imperial Guardsmen in using shock and awe tactics, and your chapter recruits from this moon.
Yeah, so I guess it's a really, really aggressive kind of sabotage.
Yeah.
It's not very cloak and dagger. It's more so, hey, I'm taking this from you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I like to imagine like really aggressive, like you don't like raid or assassinate. Your guys come in and like terrify the enemy into like sabotaging themselves.
And just bombard the shit out of them, and then while they're cowering, cut their supply lines.
And it's on a system-wide scale, so it's like you aren't just sabotaging like one military unit. You're sabotaging them across an entire fucking system.
All right, it's sounding metal as hell for blueberries.
I mean, the blueberries themselves like war. It's a common trait among them. All right. Now, how does your chapter view aspirants? So you got to roll a d4 to determine how your chapter views the recruits of the chapter. So
all right, there we go. Deal fair aspirants. So you said a d4?
Yes.
Or d6?
d4.
4.
Ooh, worthy of succession. So your chapter loves the aspirants. Not to say that they're like, oh, we love them so much, but like, they view them as worthy successors, and they'll put all their effort into making sure that they're trained to the best of their ability, that they're there, very good. Now, how does your chapter deal with failed aspirants? This one is a d6.
4.
4. So, loyal servant. So your chapter makes use of its aspirants by turning them into serfs and menials. So if an aspirant fails to become a space marine, don't worry, they can still serve the chapter as a slave. I mean, willing servant.
They just go back into the Imperial Guard.
Oh, that'd be cool, actually. Yeah, because, like, Why not? They're trained to become Imperial soldiers. Your chapter could have an auxiliary force of soldiers because the Ultramarines have that. The Ultramarines have the Ultima Guard or whatever they're called. So your chapter could have that. All right. So now we're at the slightly more Codex non-compliant. So this is something I created using the Horus Heresy as an example, where the Horus Heresy has a bunch of different like variant units on top of Space Marine units. And I basically broke those down to make it so that anyone could basically make their own unique role within their chapter. So I have 4 options. There's nothing to roll for it. There are roles that are done with it later on, but they're just basically different options you can to further personalize your chapter. So, for example, the first option is venerating an existing role. So we would take an existing role within the chapter and basically make a more elite veteran version of it. Next up, you have the Rearmed and Reloaded, which is basically the Deathwing method, where we take you basically take a position in the chapter, and then you assign it a particular set of armor or equipment, and you have to justify why your chapter uses that method. Like, what is special about, say, the first company all having Terminators? And then we have the Hybridization, which is basically where we take 2 roles that exist, like 2 specialty roles, and we just merge them together. So, for example, combining the Librarian and the Apothecary, or the Chapter Champion and the Standard Bearer, or, all those different ones. And then I have a special secret 4th option, which is basically where we take a infantry unit or a standard baseline troop unit, and then we combine it with a specialty unit. So the example I give is an Apothecary. So, for example, the Apothecary and the Infernus Marines. So you might think, oh, Infernus Marines with the Apothecary, they must shoot healing spray. Well, my logic was, no, the Apothecary used Gene Seed. Well, maybe the chapter used Infernus Marines for the Apothecary to, like, get rid of mutations in their chapter or something. So, which one of these 4 variants would you want to use for your chapter to make them more Codex non-compliant? Or do you think your chapter...
Let's do option 2. That sounds interesting. Let's see what specific like they have for a specific unit.
All right. So roll a d10 to determine what role in your chapter is going to have be the target of this. So
they have a first company.
The first company. All right. So the entire first company is going to have this specific type of armor or equipment. So roll a d6 for me.
D6. Okay. How about 2?
Phobos. So Phobos are the lighter stealth variant of Space Marine armor. So why does your chapter based on aggressive sabotage and shock and awe tactics use the armor that is specially used for stealth and shock and awe tactics?
Well, I guess that makes sense because the regular Marines are pounding them from the front, and then the guys in the Phobos armor sneak around the back.
Excellent.
And cut them off.
Very cool. You want to make another one, or are you good with 1? We can make as many as we want, but I personally think that 1 or 2 is usually enough to give your chapter a bit more personality and separate them from...
Let's do 1 more of 2. Why not? Let's just see where it goes.
All right, another of 2. All right, so if we get first company, we're rolling again, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, D10.
10, company captain.
Ooh, okay. And roll a d6 for me. Oh, and if we're going to do the captain, roll a d10 again to determine which of the 10 companies has this.
All right, fantastic. The second company.
Okay, the second company. Ooh, that's cool, actually. So the first company is all not Terminators. The first company is all Phobos, so we could even say the first company captain is all Phobos. So what's the second company have?
What is 6?
Terminators. So your first company is like stealth, sabotage, and like, all that shit with the Phobos armor. And then your second company is, yeah, I'm a fucking tank. What are you going to do about it?
So is that specifically just the company captain who's wearing the Terminator?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah, it would be the company captain. So the second company captain uses Terminator armor.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Are you good? So you're good with 2 then?
Yeah, we'll stick with 2. That sounds interesting.
Right. And we're going to do the chapter armory, and then we're going to do the chapter relics afterwards, and that should be everything we need.
Sounds great.
All right, so we're gonna do the chapter armory, and I want you to roll 1d4 to determine how many battle barges your chapter has. Each battle barge is able to transport around like 300 Space Marines, and so typically the more of these you have, like the more of your chapter you can bring to a battle.
Well, I got 3.
Ooh, that is impressive. So you could transport like 900 Marines if you wanted to.
Yeah.
All right, now 2d6 for how many strike cruisers your chapter has. Strike cruisers can only transport 100 Marines, but they're a lot easier to produce and they're a lot faster than the battle barge.
I've got 8.
Holy fuck, you got a huge fleet. All right, now escort ships. Escort ships can only carry 10, but they usually have enough supplies for an entire company.
Oh boy, 3d8. Give me 1 second. I'll find it. All right, 12, 17.
Oh my god. You have 17 escorts.
Huge navy.
You have a huge navy. That is ridiculous. That is, I mean, when we get to the events section, if we get to the events section, if you guys want a part 2, let me know, because I'd love to see the fate of this chapter. You know what?
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yes, hit us with, I don't know, 100 likes in this, and we'll do a part 2 with Dungal and his fleet. So, yes, when we get to the narrative section, it's actually possible that when you suffer defeats, for you to actually lose your chapter armory. So you can actually lose ships, depending on whether or not you your chapter fails in these narrative events, for like the minigame part.
Very interesting.
And then every chapter starts with 1 relic. So roll a d20 to determine what kind of relic it is. Is it an artifact, a ranged melee weapon, or a vehicle?
Right, celestial map. So apparently they're really good at navigating the warp.
Celestial maps. Ooh. That's actually cool. That makes sense, though, because you have a huge fleet.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, it seems like this is honestly a chapter that's based on a lot around I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they're fighting system-wide conflicts, or at least solar system-wide conflicts using shock and awe. I mean, or sabotage and shock and awe. So, I mean, having a strong navy makes sense.
Yes, the celestial map is very cool. So, to end, also, yes. So the celestial map also gives us an option, because all the artifacts offer an option, or rather a bonus. This one, when we do events, depending on where your chapter is located, you can set events in those locations or within one adjacent one. The celestial map lets you go even further away from your starting location.
Very interesting.
It's very good. And of course, you gotta determine how your chapter got these relics. So roll a d6 for me, and that'll determine where your chapter got this relic.
Absolutely. Forgive me, I'm just trying to find it in the actual. There we go.
Don't worry. There's a lot of dice involved in this.
6. Used it to defeat an enemy.
So you would need to justify a reason or a method on how the celestial map could have been used to defeat an enemy. And that would bring us to the final section, which is the chapter event section, which we will cover in the next episode. If we reach 100 likes, I will gladly bring Dungal on for another episode, and we can cover the chapter event section. But so far, Dungal, what are your thoughts on our setup here, on your chapter and the rules we've come to determine throughout the course of this random rules table that I created?
Well, in the course of 30 minutes, I have just as much lore as a new chapter that is, not Ultramarines. So we're doing great.
I have the average amount of lore for any other Space Marine chapter already.
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, this is pretty
fantastic.
Good. This is pretty good. I'm enjoying this. I mean, honestly, how do you see your chapter so far? What are you getting from your chapter as a, when we come back to this, when we do a part 2, because I'm sure we'll get to do a part 2. What are you imagining for your chapter, and then we'll compare that to when you come back, because when you come back, I'll ask you again. I'll give you the question of what did you come to for your chapter? So what are you imagining so far?
All right. Well, I mean, with a large fleet like they have 3 battle barges. I mean, yeah, it's an absolute ton. So I imagine a lot of drop pod combat. Honestly, just getting thrown in, coming back out. I mean, they gotta work fast. There's only 1,000 of them.
And they're fighting across the entire solar system.
Yeah, so.
I mean, that's just coordinated as all hell. You can imagine, like, precision, too. Like, not just, like, the fact that they're Ultramarines, but, like, listen, you need to be down on the floor in 10 minutes and off in 3. We need this, like, now. Go, 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 go. And I can imagine that the fact that they're an Imperial Guard training planet that they originate from, that these guys are probably, like, extremely regimented, like, extremely, like, organized and orderly as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe they're using that Phobos armor more as like Vanguard armor.
Yeah.
So they move faster and clear the way for the heavier units.
Yes, I could definitely see that. This is very fun. I'm excited to see where you go. I am also. You know what, Dunga? When we come back, here's what I want from you. I want a detailed breakdown of your chapter. Not obviously, but come back when we get back to this. Let me know where your chapter stands in your mind's eye. What are you imagining, and give me a justification on how the celestial map was used to defeat an enemy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll definitely have to think on it, but I mean, there's a lot to work with here already.
Yes. Does it meet your criteria of what you expected alongside your Witcher D&D brain that you have? That I like the Witcher role playing section definitely was another inspiration, another reason why I wanted to get you on here, because
the Witcher TTRPG. Yeah, the Witcher TTRPG has a very in-depth character creator.
Yes,
it's very good for writing a fleshed out character in, honestly, a comparatively small amount of steps.
Yes, this was definitely an inspiration I took from that, and I hope that it fits. It meets that criteria.
Incredibly well. This works incredibly well. Especially, there's nothing like this.
Very good. I am excited to see what you come up with, and my hope is that I'll edit this in a single day. Because aside from some minor mess-ups and potentially a blooper reel that I might add later on, this episode is going to have very, very minimal editing. Yes, but as for any of my viewers or anyone else who wants the chance to take a look at this, like the video, we'll get Dungo back on, and I will let you guys know how you can be a part of this, because I already have a perfect idea on how to get some extra people in to take part in this event, or to take part in this chapter creation mini series I'm starting. So make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, because I want Dungo back on. Dungo wants me back on, I hope. And yes, any closing words?
Fantastic being on, for having me. And please, if I do not get 100 likes on this video, he will not let me out of the basement. So please, like post haste.
Hey, get back in there, shut up.